Hello, everybody. A little more casual today than normal, but thank you all for joining. Many people wanted to see the dog, so here we are. That's the dog. No barking. So let's get into today's story. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about AI, what's next, what happened over the past 3 years, what could happen over the next 6 months, and what does the future look like. We'll also look at Bitcoin proxies, crypto proxies, and a little bit of AI. And the topic is AGI meets Bitcoin. Big thank you to TD Tesla and Sean D. You're always there. You're amazing. K8 and everybody else. And by the way, I forgot to mention Doc Intern, Dirk Diggler, Steve O, Crypto Last Outpost, Nick Markovsky, Mr. 100 Yen, QC Coiner, Must Be Quebec, and Dr. Pepper and Hello Calo. So let's get into the story. And happy weekend, everybody. I put myself in the top left right now. No financial advice. And all the questions come from Patreon every week. And some of the questions this week were kind of a little bit different. And we'll get into the first one now. This is from CJL. Their last post was 7 months ago. Hi, James and team. Big thank you for the wealth of information you provide on a daily basis. Have you any update on using Fidelity Bitcoin Custody Service to store your Bitcoin? I also feel nervous using cold storage as I get older. Me too. And many of us have done for quite some time. And I must say, kudos to the team at Fidelity. They are Bitcoin native. They have been involved in Bitcoin since, I think, 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And now they've opened up crypto capabilities that are kind of next level. So you can very quickly set up an account if you don't have one. Basically, within minutes, I did that. I had a legacy Fidelity account from way back when, and I just basically bolted this onto it. And you can start, if you can fund it with as little as $1, and you can learn on the site. But the most important thing for me is they will actually keep your crypto assets secure. And for years since I started this, I always said once the big players like the Fidelities, the Schwabs come into the game, then you know it's a mature space and you can actually trust them. Of course, not your keys, not your coins. I get that. But at the same time, Fidelity is not going to burn their reputation over some type of scam. That is very important. So let's look at exactly what they do. First of all, they allow you to deposit Bitcoin directly to your cold storage, from your cold storage wallet to theirs. They have basically a dedicated address that's generated for you. You just sign up for it, say you want one, and you get it typically within, I think, 24 hours. And there are no custody fees for retail users. There are for big bowlers, but not for retail. And your deposits typically appear within 10 minutes or 60 minutes. And always, everybody, try with a small amount first. But this takes a big weight off my mind. Not have to worry about a key or something that's out of state or a shady platform or an exchange. This is different. And of course, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And they, of course, they do make a fee as well. They have a spread fee up to 1% and some withdrawal fees as well. But again, it's for peace of mind. And that's the most important thing. So yes, you can do it. Yes, I've tested it. I think, by the way, you've got to be over 18 and you have to be in the US. I'm not sure of that, but I think that's the case. So yeah, go right ahead. Hope that helps. And the space is getting very mature and very regulated, which is good. This one's from Stubbles. Good day, James and IA team. Can you please provide your thoughts on MicroStrategy versus Bitcoin price action? November 2024, MicroStrategy hit all-time high, 543, when Bitcoin was 95K. Now, Bitcoin's 119K, and MicroStrategy is 434. MicroStrategy is $100 lower and Bitcoin's 24K higher. Is this due to MicroStrategy share dilution or investor hype? Very good question. As I say all the time, there's two things you need to look at when you're analyzing MicroStrategy. One is the Nav Premium. Number two is the Bitcoin price. And those two will give you the answer. So what happened back in November 2024, actually around the 24th, 25th, the NAV premium for MicroStrategy went to the moon. It went to 3.5 times normal. Currently, we're trading about 1.7, 1.75 NAV premium. So that NAV premium doubled, and that's what you were seeing in the price of the stock. And remember, when you are buying MicroStrategy, always look at the NAV premium. Okay? Do not, and this is the pain that a lot of people have. They FOMO into a big move and they get excited and they see MicroStrategy at $500 or whatever it was, $550, and they buy the top. And then they're bitter for the rest of their lives. Don't be a top buyer, everybody. Everybody, please, please, please don't do that. I made a Patreon post this morning, though. Even if you are a top buyer, you can still make money. But anyway, that's a separate issue. But that is exactly why. Now, Squibbles, there's a couple of questions that dovetail into yours exactly. So I'll work on this. This is from Tasman Working. Last post was 6 months ago, not 7. If total real estate value is 370 trillion, equities 128 trillion, bonds 120 trillion, where do you think Bitcoin and MicroStrategy will be if Bitcoin snags 3 to 5% of each of these equities? And with Bitcoin outperforming each of these and being recognized as a commodity, I don't think it's much of a leap to getting to 3 to 5% or more. And if you agree, how long do you think it would take for each of these thresholds? Not financial advice. Cheers to you too. Well, there's a couple of things that are a little bit clear. So there's a slight flaw in the way the question is structured, but I understand what you're trying to get at. And we'll break it down in a second. But snagging 3 to 5% of each of these equities, technically they're not equities, they're assets. Equities are like stocks. But there is a way of breaking it down. And if you look at the different discrete elements, can Bitcoin demonetize gold? Yes. Can it demonetize real estate? Yes. Can it demonetize the credit markets? Yes. The question is how much. So, for example, Michael Saylor now with convertible preferreds and preferred stocks, he's going after the credit market, which is worth 320 trillion. So let's look at what we're talking about here. So let's say, call them other assets, not equities. And let's say they amount to 618 trillion. Of course, they're going to grow over time. In fact, the total wealth of assets today used to be just under, it was like 900 trillion, 950 trillion. Now it's above a quadrillion. So it's a lot of money, everybody. And it's going to grow as well. As the money printing grows, it floats all boats. But if you take that 3% of 637 trillion, you get 19.1 trillion. And that will bring the Bitcoin price divided by the number of Bitcoin. And the current market cap would be a multiplier of 19.1. And that would take the Bitcoin price to about $988,217, just shy of $1 million. Do I think you can get there? Yes. The question is when. I think we're probably going to be looking at this somewhere between 2030 and 2032. But I will say something again. That is assuming Bitcoin still exists at this point in time. We don't know what the world will look like, if it's even going to be here in 5 years. So always keep your tap dancing shoes on, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what would the price of MicroStrategy be? Okay, so let's say that's 2030, 2032. If that happens, of course, it's very difficult to estimate the price of MicroStrategy because it's a function of how much they ATM, which is dilute their stock, how much preferred stock they issue, what type of convertible debt they issue, etc. That all impacts dilution, but we'll break this down. If Bitcoin does go to 988,000 and you assume, and this goes back to the previous question as well, from Scribbles, if you assume the NAV premiums are on the left-hand side, I got 1, which means parity, which means MicroStrategy is trading at the value of their Bitcoin bag, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3. And remember, we went to 3.5 or even higher back in November. Then the price, if everything stays the way it is right now, i.e., the Bitcoin price goes to 988 and there's no more dilution, the price of MicroStrategy would be somewhere between $3,200 and $5,300, depending on the NAV premium. But if the Nav Premium goes to 1, the price will be $2,115. But typically, because MicroStrategy is a levered play on Bitcoin, it outperforms Bitcoin. We'll share that in great detail in a couple of charts in a minute. And shout out to, what do I see? I see Tom is out there. Yeah, the apologist. But this was a cool little quote as well from Michael Saylor. He said, soon every billionaire will buy $1 billion of Bitcoin, and the supply shock will be so great that we will stop measuring Bitcoin in terms of fiat. Boom. It'll be like, how many shares of Tesla do you have? Or how many shares of NVIDIA do you have? It'll be, how many Bitcoin do you have? And again, there are a lot of billionaires on the planet. There are thousands of them. And very few of them have any exposure to Bitcoin. So this is going to, the question is the dog alive? Of course she is. So let's move on to the next question. This is from the Old Hawk. And this ties into as well some of the performance of the assets and how things move fast and how the last 3 years have been exceptional. But this is from the Old Hawk, good friend of the channel. Over the last 3 years, my yearly return has been almost 5x, for example, in 2024, and 2x so far this year. I started investing in 2022. Well, you have hit the ground running, Old Hawk. That's extremely impressive. But do you think that's good, or should I push for more? Remember, I'm 80% in Tesla, Sol, Jupe, DFDV, DeFi Dev, we'll talk about later too, and Asset. Remember, some of the assets have just exploded. It's been a crazy time to trade proxies ever since the year 2020. But let's look at a couple of charts, and then I'll summarize of where we're. Let's look at the charts first. Okay, last 3 years, Bitcoin is up 293%. Mind blowing. Last 3 years, MicroStrategy is up 1,323%. Mind blowing. Last 3 years, Solana is up 1,072%. I know people are like, oh, Solana, you got to remember, look where it came from. And that's the last 3 years. And the last 3 years, Tesla's only up 99%. So that is like kind of sucky compared to the rest. But well done with your 5x in 2024. A 2x so far this year is pretty great. But remember as well, all the action typically happens in the second half of the year. July is the best month for stocks historically. And then Q4 is always incredible, that being October, November, December. September can be bumpy, so be ready for that. And August is sleepy. Seasonality works. I look at it a lot. But remember, we have tailwinds coming. We have rate cuts coming. Money printing is going to continue. And as well as all season has already begun, which is phenomenal to even think about. It's hard to believe we're here. Now, as usual, all these questions bleed together, so we'll get into a couple more of them as well. But that's what's happened over the last 3 years. And I do want to zoom out for a second. Those results, to make a 5x on your portfolio is incredible. Is it sustainable? If you're really good, yes. But remember, most of the world survives on 7% returns. So this just, I want to set expectations. Investing is very difficult. If you are arrogant and cocky, it'll rip your face off. So be humble. Always be humble in the markets. Now, from Mindful Finance, what's your read on DFDV, DeFi Development Corporation? The company recently got SEC approval for 5 billion ELOC. That's an equity line of credit, unlike a HELOC, home equity line of credit, which, as I understand, is a more flexible version of MicroStrategy's ATM. The 5 billion raise is 10x their market cap, and the stock currently trades between a 3.5 to 4x NAV. I just measured it was like 2.75x NAV last week. So it's not quite that high. But again, it depends on the actual price of Solana. But does this mean a lot of accretive dilution is on the way? Does this setup make you more bullish on DFDV? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. This is interesting because there's a lot to it. So I tried to break it down with a simple little model, but I do want to hint and let you know the allocation rules. Proxies are dangerous. They are very volatile. If you can get into them early and they're good quality proxies, you're in good shape. If you're late, you can get stuffed, like buying MicroStrategy at the 3.5x NAV, 355% NAV premium, 3.5x NAV premium. Too high. But remember, never lend more than 10% of your Bitcoin, never be more than 5% of Bitcoin miners, and proxies, keep the majority in spot. Always, always, always. Remember that. Now, I tried to break down the share accretion for DeFi Dev Corporation, modeling out what 5 billion would look like. And I've watched a lot of share accretion happen with different names. But again, 5 billion equity line of credit, which means selling new shares to raise cash to buy more Solana tokens. And this table shows different levels of ELOC use, the minimum 10%, moderate 50%, and full 100%. It doesn't mean they're going to issue 5 billion of stock, but they have a plan, and who knows if they'll do it. Metal Planet is doing something very similar, very aggressive with Bitcoin. But issuing new shares creates dilution, i.e., existing shareholders end up owning a smaller piece. But because the shares sell at a premium and the NAV premium is high in this case, it could really boost each share's Solana exposure. Let's call it SPS, Solana per share. I always call Sats per share, SPS as well for MicroStrategy. I'll show you that table in a second. But with all these different scenarios resulting in higher SPS than before, even after dilution, it could be good, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if there could be a bear market coming in late this year or next. We shall see. But be careful of this dilution and watch your NAV premiums. Here are some models as to what it could actually mean over time. But putting this table aside, you want to pause it, dig through it, do your own math, that's fine. But this is the miracle of MicroStrategy share accretion, okay? This is the simple little chart that I've been managing for years now. And as you can see, Satoshis per share, per MicroStrategy share, are up 20.5% since January 1st, 2025. The sats per MicroStrategy share are up 8.7x since inception. And the price of Bitcoin is up 10.5x since inception. Put those two together. If you bought a share of MicroStrategy in 2020, which I did, you can see how your sats per share are up 8.6 and the price of Bitcoin's up 10.5x since they began doing this. I hope, once again, this explains what I call the infinite money glitch or the flywheel that is MicroStrategy. And currently the MNAV for MicroStrategy is 1.75, if I'm not mistaken. So remember, if DeFi Dev does it the same way as this, it could be quite powerful. But we have to see exactly what happens. So remember as well, the ace in the hole that Solana have, it's a small asset. It's 25% or less of the market cap of Ethereum, but 67% of Solana is staked. So only 33% of it's available. If a player like DeFi Dev comes in and tries to buy $5 billion worth of Solana, it's going to send the price to the moon. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's a small asset. That's a lot of money. The price is made at the margin. The rest is history. Compare this to Ethereum. Only 29% of Ethereum is staked. So again, it'll be fun to watch if they can pull it off. And in full disclosure, I do have a position in DeFi Dev as well. Next is from Git. It's been a while since you've seen Git. Last post was 5 months ago. How will AGI AI impact the security of the Bitcoin network? I am concerned about this. Interesting. And I'm glad you're concerned. It's always good to be able to look around the corner and understand what's coming. Oh, look at this. Cool little quote here from YM. I want to thank you for turning my 340K to nearly 2 million in less than 3 years. Over 600% gain. That's awesome. Again, be in the right assets at the right time. But you got to be in, I always used to say, be in the 1%, 1%ers. Ignore the 99%. And then everybody can do this. But AGI versus quantum, they're two different things. Quantum is the risk to brute force break the Bitcoin protocol. But I still believe that's 8 years out. Despite all the fudge you read on the media and, oh yeah, Google have a quantum computer and they can all hack Bitcoin. No. And AGI has a different mission. The mission of AGI is to basically replicate the intelligence of humans, not brute force certain things. Oh, one other thing as well, just to remind everybody, if quantum gets to such a level that it can break Bitcoin, that means everything else is broken. We're talking intelligence systems, the CIA, the FBI, medical records, banks, institutions, everything is hacked. So if you get to that stage, we're all screwed. Don't even worry about Bitcoin. We'll have bigger problems. Now, AGI is the AI capable of beating any intellectual task a human can do. And in the last 2 weeks, we got there, where basically Grok 4 now surpasses all PhD level knowledge across all subjects on the planet at once. And it's available to everybody for pennies. Now, while AGI, of course, can revolutionize many things, it's not really a threat to Bitcoin security. But there is a positive, first of all, and a negative. So I need to get some water. Ugh, coffee. So AGI may bolster Bitcoin's ecosystem because it might have breakthroughs with energy, protocol development, mining efficiency, autonomous transactions, lower fees. There's so many things that could actually happen. It could also help develop the protocol to make it quantum proof. That's another advantage. But there are dangers of AGI that don't impact the protocol, but it will definitely make it easier for people to hack and socially scam people out there as well. So beware of all forms of AGI. I used to say, even if you think it's your mother on the phone, don't trust it's a fake mom. Now we had a case last week where AI replicated a daughter's voice and called the mother pretending she was in a car crash and needed money immediately. And she got fooled. So remember, don't trust anything anymore. Next question. Thank you, Git. Next question is from Subfighter. And this is a clever question. Thank you for the question. With so much of the Bitcoin supply held by the ETFs and cold storage, how accurate is on-chain analysis these days? It seems as though the price action fluctuates based on buying and selling of ETF products, which may not be reflected in on-chain data. Does this impact the reliability of the TABI model, which is the top and bottom indicator? Unrelated, James, you make a lot of jiu-jitsu references. Did you train jiu-jitsu at all? Yes, I did. Free lesson on me if you ever make it out to California. I'm in California, but my bones are too old and broken for that. I'm just trying to make my skeleton last as long as it can. So I'm way past me now. But getting back to your question, this is a good question. The impact of ETFs is actually great in a number of different ways. First of all, because now so much Bitcoin is locked away, we have far less noise, far cleaner data, and far more signal in the on-chain data than ever before. Because a large amount has been socked away in cold storage, therefore, very little supply is out there moving around, which makes on-chain metrics less distorted by irrelevant movements. And this results in much higher signal-to-noise ratio, and it makes the data on Bitcoin users and active traders and miners, etc., much clearer. So it's actually a gift. Also, the fact that you hinted at trades happening OTC, they don't really affect the market. They do. You can still watch everything that's going on, all the big moves, etc. Even though it is OTC, it still does show up in the data. And the TABI model and other momentum indicators do benefit from this clearer data, and you get fewer false positives, and you get to see little impacts that actually have huge impact on these predictors. So again, nothing but an extremely good thing for these types of models. Again, in summary, so much being locked away is actually extremely good for on-chain analytics. Next question is from S. Domant. Hope I got that right. I have big Tesla bags and synthetic long entry at 291. You always say Tesla is not a car company, but I'm worried it's also not an AI company, as it relies on technology from XAI, E.g. Grok, in Tesla vehicles. I assume that at best, Tesla will share revenue with XAI. Should we be worried as the revenue might not go to Tesla at all? How do you see this? Great question. I like the way you're thinking, but you have to look at Musk Industries as a whole. So, for example, the Cybertruck bulletproof material was actually engineered by SpaceX and used in Tesla. A lot of the new Roadster comes from a rocket capability from SpaceX. The Boring Company builds tunnels now at the gigafactories for Tesla. So there's synergy across everything else. And Elon isn't about screwing one company with another company. That's not the way it works. But I've never seen so much synergy across a set of companies like this before in my life. It's kind of bonkers. But let's break it down in a couple of different areas because I think about this all the time. Now, Tesla is the most vertically integrated AI company on the planet. When you have, I was making jokes about a paper I wrote this week about Uber partnering with Neuro, partnering with Lucid. I mean, after all their 35 different partnerships, Uber partnerships, just to try and stay alive, it's just a joke. Now in this world, vertical integration is absolutely key. And there is no company that has the hardware, the cars, the robots. In fact, the car is a robot on wheels. And software, FSD, and model training, Dojo. They make silicon and foundational research, XAI. Okay. Tesla will invest in XAI, so they'll become quasi partners. But they also have the largest amount of real world data. They've been recording traffic stuff for 7-8 years now. And their factory is the product, the machine that makes the machine. Nobody can touch their manufacturing advantage. In fact, the Chinese, who are the most competitive people out there, bow to the capabilities of Tesla. That's the first part. Second, Tesla controls everything. The silicon, Dojo, for AI training. And of course, they have, I think they're only using 10% of the training is done on Dojo. 90% is done using H100s, B200s from NVIDIA. Software, FSD is the most advanced computer vision model deployed in the real world. And remember, every car has an AI chip in it too, capable of real-time inference. And finally, hardware, Optimus and cars, real-world embodied agents. If there is a company that can pull off the biggest TAM, that's the total addressable market in the history of the world, it is this company called Tesla, because they know how to make stuff. And software, this is the funny piece. Software is the easy part. So the brain, which is XAI and Grok, also the brain that's in Teslas, that's considered the hard part, but making the hardware to support it is actually harder than the software. Now, let's talk for a second about what we mean by this synergy. This is very, very important. XAI does add the LLM and reasoning capabilities to an already strong vision stack. Remember, XAI only began 2 years ago, and Tesla will invest in the XAI, and that'll be an AI powerhouse. But combining this, the synergy of FSD and Optimus, real-time Twitter data, XAI talent pool, I mean, the feedback loop is out of control. And I'm not the only one to notice this too. And there is nothing, the TAM I mentioned before, there's nothing bigger than humanoids. Ask Jensen Huang. Look at a company called Figure in China. They're on track to make 700,000 to 1 million robots this year. The robots are here and they're scaling very fast. The question is, who can make the best robot that lasts the longest with the best brain? And everybody thinks that is Tesla, okay? This is AI embodiment. This will be huge and everybody will want one. Everybody that can get their hands on one. And his bet is basically physical AI and cars and robots meet AI. That should be decision engines, not precision engines. Sorry about that. And that will generate a ton of economic value. But ignore me. I'm just a guy on YouTube. But these fellows here, I think it's top left is Kevin. We have Jason in the middle, Shamath on the right, and then Dave Freeberg on the bottom and David Sachs at the bottom. David Sachs is the AI and crypto czar. The most important position, probably, I believe, in the whole US government administration is his position. And it's not a coincidence he's there. But if you look at their choices, okay, this is a series of their choices of who will win the super intelligence AGI, AI, ASI, whatever you want to call it, world. They all pretty much had Tesla on their bingo card. Either number 2, Kevin at number 2, Jason number 1, Tesla, Shamath number 1, Tesla, David, who used to work at Google, so he had Tesla number 2, and Sachs number 1, Tesla. Follow the smart people. They believe the leader will be Tesla, and the synergy is clear. Okay, so everybody needs to get a piece of this. So very important. Next question is from John Mack. I've been a Patreon member for close to a couple of years now, and I've been DCing into Bitcoin and Solana when finances allow for much longer. I've told friends, family, and colleagues about the benefits of investing in crypto. Some listen and act, others not so much. Oh, trust me, I know that story. I've been telling people to buy Bitcoin since 2017. My little spiel was, if you got 2 kids, buy 2 Bitcoin. It'll cost you $6,000, lock it away, come back in 20 years. That was my story. Nobody did it. Everybody thought I was crazy. Anyhow, it would be great to get a technical update progress report on the beta phase of Firedancer and its likely arrival to being upgraded to the main network. So I'm going to talk about that briefly, but many other things too that are happening with this chain, which does 70% of all transactions on all crypto. One chain. Now, Firedancer, 10% of validators are now running Firedancer already, which is great, which means if there was a problem with the code base to the original code base, 10% of validators would continue running. So the days of outages ever happening again on Solana are gone, everybody. Gone. Very important. Second, this is the throughput and efficiency gains from the platform. This is from Agave 2.0, and it shows you that, and 95% of the network stake has adopted this, by the way, but you can see the actual efficiency gains and the errors and the skips have been absolutely eliminated. The block time has gone down by hundreds of percent. I think it's gone to 400 milliseconds, down from 650 milliseconds a few months ago. And it's going down to 100 milliseconds as well with the next thing I'm going to show you. And the finality is also far faster. And that's very, very important for high-speed trading that we all love to do too. So this boosts and enables Solana to handle exponentially more transactions without outages, supporting very scalable applications, mainly perp trading. Shout out to the perpers out there and decentralized exchanges and such. And Solana AlpenGlow. This is a cool little image of the current Solana on the left and AlpenGlow on the right. And you see the way everything is blending together. These are actually SpaceX rockets. First iteration versus current iteration. The best part is no part. The thing is becoming much simpler. Solana is becoming much simpler. Now we're going to 100 milliseconds finality with AlpenGlow, which would be 3 times faster than the fastest chain, next fastest chain, which is Sui. There will be no transaction votes, no vote transactions, and no proof of history. This is a revolution. Taking the best chain, making it even better again. And the speed deltas as well for this are something to behold. You can see here, this is Sol versus ETH. But when AlpenGlow comes, okay, the finality will be 250,000% faster than Ethereum. Again, we live in a very fast-moving world, and it's getting faster. Nobody can wait 5 or 10 minutes for a transaction anymore. It has to be instantaneous. We're talking 100 milliseconds or thereabouts. And that's what this chain will do. And of course, it already does a hell of a lot more than Ethereum. And shout out to the Ethereum bag holders because they've done very well. And to Tom Lee, who's never off the TV talking about Ethereum. Ethereum has done really well. But it's great for everybody because as Ethereum grows, the total crypto market cap grows, and that floats all boats. So it's kind of like money printing. We're all benefiting from this as well. And favorite part of the week, this is, turn off my camera, put me up there. This is from the Save the Elephant Foundation. And a shout out to community member Aquamarine, who turned us on to this incredible organization. And we were able to adopt little PMI, rescued at 3 months old, along with her mother from an elephant show where they do terrible things to those poor animals. But now she's hanging out in the sanctuary and living in the herd and having a great old time. And tomorrow as well, DCA, the team is back together. We have Marty back from Australia. And despite the summertime, we'll all be here tomorrow on DCA. I'll post something on Patreon later so you can all guide us with what you want to talk about. So I hope you got smarter. I'm now going to do some live questions. As I sit here, everybody's asleep. There's a giraffe, by the way. That's funny. I just realized that right now. Anyhow, let's get into the live questions. And I hope they come through. Bum, bum, bum. I know it takes a second. I remember text messages used to be so fast. I'm going to do doc intern first, actually. Because, it's a question. Can you look into Cadence Design Systems, CDNS, as an AI opportunity? They design chips for TSMC. Thanks. There's a bunch of chip designers, actually, that are very interesting. I will look into Cadence. I remember them from back in the day. But remember, with AI, everything is hot once again. I mean, energy companies like Chevron and you name it will be hot. Everything is hot with the build. Caterpillar, engineering companies. Everything's going to be red hot right now. So I'll have a look. But I tend to prefer. I heard somebody else, actually, I'm going to take a second on this, regarding AI. I've been talking about it for a long time. I talk about the fact that, the picks and shovels are the chips. And in the old gold rush, all the money was made in picks and shovels. But that's because there was no gold in the hills. AI is generating a lot of gold. Think of autonomous vehicles. Think of the disruption. Think of AI. Think of anybody for pennies or for free can now have the world, an army of PhDs at their fingertips to make decisions and learn. It's pretty incredible. Anyway, Doc Intern, I will have a look at CDNS ticker as an AI opportunity, but odds are it probably ran. It'll take a while to do an analysis. I can't do it live here. TB Lightning Bolt. Thank you, James. You're the best. You changed my life. Woohoo. You changed mine too. Thank you for coming. And Dirk Diggler. Shout out to my girlfriend watching her first live James vid. I love her almost as much as James and team. I got my moonwalking shoes on, baby. I have DFDV calls as of Friday and the stock in both Robinhood and 401k. Say something nice, James. Hello, girlfriend. Dirk is very funny. He's hilarious on Discord. And I hope things are going well with his NFT collection. Anyway, Marie M. Any guidelines on using the IA suite strategically for retirement? I'm 70, but looking to slow down. Great tools, but at times a little overwhelming. I think, I don't know what you do. If you do things like covered calls, look at mean reversion. If you zoom out, look at the 4-hour or the daily chart on any asset. It'll tell you when it's a good time to buy, when it's a good time to sell, just on the confluence model. And then the optimized trend, again, on the 4-hour or the daily, will tell you the direction of where something is going. And that's all you need to know. But and hang out in Discourse. There's a wealth of information there as well. Ugen Sky, thank you. Thank you too. And thank you to T&D, Sean D, and the whole family. Rusty Bot in Norway. My shoes are 69% lead. I'm not sure I get that. Maybe it's something to do. Oh, maybe moon boots. Good. That means you don't float off the moon. Maybe, my interpretation. Anglo Blackson. Know any news about the timing for Fidelity Sol ETF and BlackRock ETH ETF switching on staking? Thank you to all the mods. The SEC delayed the ETH staking ETF, but there are another 7 or 8 Solana ETFs that are coming, and they're coming, I think, within the next 4 weeks. So stay tuned for that. It won't be late this year. It'll be the next 4 weeks or so. So it'll be exciting. And but I'll dig into that and make sure. But there's some hiccup with the ETH staking ETFs. Anyway, we already have a Sol staking ETF, so it shouldn't be a big hang up. Skipping Stones, thank you as well. And thank you for being here. Dirk Diggler, I'm basically pre-rich thanks to James, but this is ones for the haters who still never bothered to block my annoying but much respect. Good man, Dirk. And Sigdiv, I never know how to pronounce this. SGDIV. I always think of you as Singapore dividend using my word matching. Thanks for all the team does. Your thoughts on 2 nuclear stocks that have a run from April but still might have legs due to energy from AI and EVs. Symbols are SMR and CCJ. SMR is the small nuclear reactor company. That's supposed to be hot. But the problem is they take too long to get anything done. Yes, we need nuclear. But yes, the Chinese are building every quarter the equivalent of 73 nuclear plants just using solar alone. So I think we're chasing a dream with nuclear. I think if we can get our hands on panels and storage from Tesla, the answer's there. Nuclear just takes too long to build. And the problem I have is because it takes so long to build, you're not going to see the results like you will from other AI plays. That's why I kind of stay away from things. But I do want to say one thing actually regarding energy. There is a massive, infinite demand for energy right now. And I think that is like a call option on the Bitcoin miners. Those that have energy locked up and have facilities, the problem is a lot of them are far away from where they need to be, but that could actually give the Bitcoin miners a little boost as well. It already has with companies like Iris Energy. They've done quite well over the last month or two. So that would be the faster term energy play that I'd think about right now, especially those miners with HPC capability as well. And thank you as well for your super sticker. Dirk Diggler, Cryptolust Outpost, Steve, Nick M, QC Coiner, Dr. Pepper, Forrest M, Mr. 100 Yen, Spartan, A Bottle of Red, CERN Dragon, IQE Labs, Joseph Samuel, Music Lover X21, and Alpha for Cry, Bitcoin Broccoli, and Dog 1. Dog 2 is over there. Thank you all for coming. Happy Sunday. I love the weekends. I get to work all the time. I'm only kidding. But thank you all for coming, everybody. And a big thank you to K8 and TD Tesla and Sean Donnelly and the Food Emperor and everybody else. The Food Emperor is, I think, in New York, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you all tomorrow morning. DCA. Bye.